Hi there, it's me Finn, and tonight we're going to talk about something quietly dangerous. Oddly lonely. And honestly a little miserable. Most people know the word assassin. It sounds sharp, mysterious, maybe even cool, but what if I told you that being a real medieval assassin was nothing like what you see in stories? No smooth hooded robes. No secret blades that always hit their target. And definitely no dramatic music in the background. Being an assassin back then sucked. You won't believe the things they had to eat, or the places they had to sleep, or how much time they spent just waiting. And if you figure out how they were even hired in the first place, well, that part is going to surprise you more than anything. So let's start by subscribing. And now let me take you back to a small quiet medieval town, where our story begins. The town is nothing special, most weren't. There are a few wooden houses, a chapel, a cobbled street where horses clop by once in a while, and in a shadow between two buildings, someone waits. He's not wearing black. He's not hidden in the rafters, he's just sitting on a barrel, in the cold. His name doesn't matter. In this world, real assassins don't get names. They don't get thanks either. What he does have is a small pouch tied to his belt. Inside a small coin, 2 needles, a folded piece of paper with a smudge of wax on it. He reads it again. It's barely readable. But it's the job. The merchant, with red sleeves, after the bells. Make it quiet. No blood in the street. It's that simple, or at least it looks simple. But behind that short message is a whole world of problems. The assassin has been in this town for 6 days. He doesn't live here. He doesn't even know the name of the street he's sitting on. He sleeps in a stable, not in a bed, just on straw behind a wall with the horse. He eats what the horses eat too. Sometimes better, sometimes worse. Why? Because assassins weren't paid ahead of time. You did the job first. Then if the employer was happy, you might get paid. So for 6 days he's waited, watching people walk by, counting which ones wear red sleeves, listening to the bells, trying to figure out who the merchant is, and trying not to be noticed. That part is harder than it sounds. Most people think hiding in the shadows is easy, but in a medieval town, shadows are full of rats, mud, old cabbage, and people stare at you if you loiter too long. The townsfolk are used to travelers, but they're also used to thieves, and anyone sitting around with no job gets talked about. That's the strange part of being a medieval assassin. You didn't look like a killer. You looked like someone who hadn't eaten in 2 days, which most of the time was true. It's nearly sunset now. The sky is painted with dull gold and muddy gray, and just like the paper said, the church bells begin to ring. He stands up slowly. His legs hurt. He hasn't moved in hours. The wound in his left ankle from a winter job still hasn't healed. But there, he sees him. The merchant, red sleeves, big belly, white beard, laughing with someone as he walks past the apothecary, heading toward the inn. That's the target. Now here's where things get tricky. In your mind, maybe you imagine a leap from the rooftop, a dagger in the dark. But remember, this isn't a game. There are no rooftops to jump from. And that dagger, it's actually a sharpened stick. Because carrying a real weapon could get you hanged. So the assassin doesn't rush. He walks, just fast enough to follow, slow enough to blend in. And this is where the waiting starts again. Because in real life, you don't kill someone in the street, especially not a merchant. Why? Because merchants have friends, they have guards, and more importantly, they have money. Killing someone rich meant people would ask questions, loud questions. So the assassin waits for a better chance. And here's another thing no one tells you. Assassins didn't kill often. One job could take weeks, sometimes months. You could spend more time learning how someone walked than actually ending their life. Because the art wasn't in killing, it was in not getting caught. The merchant stops to drink at the inn. The assassin doesn't follow. Instead, he loops around the back. There's always a back, and he listens. Inside, the fire crackles, laughter, dice being thrown. The merchant is at ease, which means it's not the right moment yet. So more waiting. Behind the inn, there's a wood pile. He crouches there. It smells like smoke and wet moss. A cat slips past his leg. A rat follows. He lets them both go. He hears boots, not the merchant, just a guard. The assassin's heart jumps anyway. Not out of fear, but out of exhaustion. You can't sleep much when you're an assassin. You don't eat well. You don't get letters from home. And if you die, no one buries you. You disappear. Finally the door creaks. The merchant is leaving. He's walking back the way he came, singing now. Probably drunk, still laughing, still wearing red sleeves. The assassin moves again, quiet, careful. His hands aren't shaking, but his feet hurt. He follows until the road curves behind the old well. No one is there. No windows, just trees and mud. This is it. He steps forward, closer, closer. The stick is in his sleeve, not sharp like a knife, but good enough. The merchant stops. Maybe he hears something. Maybe he does, and then he just keeps walking. The assassin doesn't strike. Not yet, because he sees it. A child in the shadows, near the fence, watching. That changes everything. You see, it wasn't always about doing the job. Sometimes it was about knowing when not to do it. Killing in front of a child meant a witness, and that meant the whole town could turn on you. So again, the assassin waits, and as he turns away, back into the dark, he knows the job isn't over. He'll have to try again tomorrow. He returns to the stable. His hands are cold, his feet are wet, and he lies down in straw, listening to the wind through the cracks in the wood. No one claps for him. No one says thank you. No one knows his name, but he's still alive. And that, for a medieval assassin, is good enough. The sun rises slow and dull. Gray clouds hang over the town like a wet blanket. The kind of sky that makes everything feel heavier than it already is. He wakes up to the sound of hooves clacking outside the stable. A man curses. A dog barks once, and goes quiet again. It's early. Too early for comfort. Too late to sleep more. His straw bed has shifted again during the night. There's a stone under his shoulder. His cloak, which he uses more like a blanket, is damp from the wall. But he doesn't complain, because who would he even complain to? Assassins don't have friends. That's not just a saying. It's the truth. The fewer people you knew, the safer you were. The fewer words you spoke, the longer you lived. He stretches his back, slow and quiet. He knows the stable owner wouldn't want him here, but he hasn't been caught yet. He leaves behind a few wood chips near the corner, so it looks like he was splitting logs. That helps keep suspicion low. And now it's time to blend in again. That part is harder than anything, because in a town like this, small, dusty, familiar, a face is everything. Strangers stand out, so he has a plan for that. He becomes useful. Not useful like a craftsman. No one's handing him tools and saying join the guild. He's not getting any apprentice robes or a shop. He offers to carry buckets. He patches roofs with borrowed He sharpens knives with a whetstone. He stole a week ago. Just enough, so people don't say who is that. Instead they say, oh, him, he's just helping out. And he smiles. The kind of smile that doesn't make people look twice. Small, quiet, and tired. The merchant from yesterday is still alive. He's already moved on, laughing again at the tavern, shaking hands with other traders. But the assassin, he's replaying every moment. The child, the shadow, the wrong timing. And the worst part, he knows there might not be another chance. In medieval life, people didn't stay still. Markets came and went. Merchants traveled. Lords arrived and sent everyone scattering. Whole families would disappear in a week if rent went up. So now, everything tightens. He watches the merchant closer. He counts how many drinks he takes, how many guards follow him, what his pattern is when he leaves the tavern. It becomes like breathing, quiet, unnoticed, but always present. He sketches a small map in the dirt with a stick. The tavern, the well, the church, alleyways, dead ends, escape routes, places he can hide. But he never writes anything on parchment, because if he gets caught, he wants nothing on him that even hints at why he's here. He hasn't bathed in 4 days. There's no public bathhouse in this town, just a river, and it's ice cold this time of year. So he wipes himself down with a rag he keeps tucked under his belt. He pours a few drops of vinegar on it to kill the smell. That's another secret of the job. You had to smell like everyone else. Too clean. People thought you were noble. Too filthy. People thought you were danger. Just enough vinegar and dirt. You were invisible. And invisible is exactly what he needs to be. He gets a boiled onion from an old woman near the market. He trades for it with a fish scale he picked up the day before. She thinks it's lucky. That's good. Luck is sometimes better than gold. He eats it behind a fence where no one can see him chew fast. It's still warm. That helps, because cold food makes you slow, and he can't afford to be slow. Not tonight. Evening comes. It's foggy now. Thicker than usual. The kind of fog that wraps around your legs and clings to your hood. That might be good. Might be bad. He crouches again in the same spot as yesterday, near the inn. But this time he's not behind the woodpile. He's under it. There's a space, small, tight, and full of cobwebs. But it lets him see the back door without being seen himself. He waits, listening. The dice roll. The mugs clink. The merchant laughs again. But this time there's a different sound too. A whistle, not a happy one. Sharp. Purposeful. It comes again. A signal. The assassin freezes. Not from fear, from memory. That whistle means something. It's from another life, another town, another job, back when he worked with a partner. Her name was Lisette. She was the only one who ever shared a meal with him without asking why. The only one who never flinched when he told the truth. The only one who didn't smell like fear or greed. They worked together once, maybe twice. And then she vanished. The whistle comes again. He turns his head slightly, just enough to catch a glimpse of motion. A figure, cloaked, hood moving like shadow. It's her. She doesn't wave, doesn't smile, just gives him the briefest look, and then disappears into the mist. Now everything is different, because now he's not the only one watching the merchant. And he knows what that means. This is no longer just his job. Someone else has been hired too. And in the world of assassins, that can mean only one of two things. Either you were too slow, or someone else wants the merchant gone faster than you can act. He feels it in his chest. Not panic. Not anger. Just pressure. Like wet rope tightening. The job might be slipping away. Or worse, a trap is being set. Back at the stable. He doesn't sleep. He lies with one eye open, listening for footsteps, watching shadows move under the door. His hand stays on his sleeve, where the stick is. Not much, but enough to survive a close call. He thinks of Lisette. Why would she be here? Was she watching him? Or the merchant? Or was she warning him? He remembers the last time he saw her. A stone tower. A blue scarf. A poisoned well. The job had gone wrong. She had said it would. She was right. Maybe she's right again. Morning comes. The town wakes up. And still, the merchant lives. But things are changing. The guard presence near the tavern is heavier. 2 new men posted at the door, one with a bow. Not just a sword. The merchant is nervous now. He moves quicker. Doesn't stop to talk. The job is close, closer than ever. And yet, it feels farther away. Because now it's not just about timing. It's about survival. The assassin knows the next move has to be perfect. No second chances. No retries. He walks the town slowly. Eyes low. Ears sharp. He notices a cart that's been parked in the same place for 3 days. That's unusual. No dust on the wheels. No horses nearby. Just sitting there. That's a sign. Maybe a hiding spot. Maybe a trap. He avoids it. Later, he walks by the river. Not for beauty. Not for peace. He needs water. Not to drink. But to wash the cloth he uses on his hands. Blood stains, even dry ones, can get you killed. And he never knows when he'll need to touch something. Or someone. By late afternoon, he sees her again. Lisette. Standing across the square. Back straight. Arms crossed. This time she speaks. Barely above a whisper. You're late. He doesn't ask how she found him. He just nods. You took the job too slow, she says. They hired me too. Is it a test? He asks. She shrugs. Could be. Could be they want two results. Could be they want one of us dead. He sighs. This wasn't supposed to be a shared job. Do you want it? He asks. She stares at him. No, she says softly. But I'll take it if I have to. And then she walks away. That night, the bells ring again. But this time he doesn't crouch behind the woodpile. He's already moving. Not toward the merchant, but toward the child. The one who watched the alley before. He slips a coin into the child's hand. Whispers something. The child nods and runs off. And then he waits. By the well, not for the merchant, but for Lisette. When she arrives, she's not surprised. You wanna split it? She asks. He shakes his head. You take the payment, he says. I'll make the noise. She tilts her head. Why? He doesn't answer. But she understands. Sometimes you don't do the job for gold. Sometimes you do it to keep someone else from doing it worse. And so, under the fog, near the church, far from the tavern, they disappear. It's still night. The bells have long since stopped ringing. The town is quiet again. But not still. The fog still swirls at ankle height, as if even the air doesn't want to settle. And in that uneasy silence, something stirs. Not loudly, not dramatically, just the soft shuffle of boots over packed dirt, the quiet snip of a blade on rope, a creak of wood that could be the wind, or not. He stands beneath the church window, shoulders hunched slightly forward. His hood isn't drawn. That would be too suspicious tonight. Instead, he leans against the stone, like someone waiting for confession. But he's not here for that. Not really. He's here because he told Lisette he would make noise. And that noise has to be just loud enough to make others turn their heads. That's the problem. Real assassins aren't meant to be seen, and now he's choosing to be seen. There's risk in that. More than risk. There's certainty. Someone will remember this. Someone will whisper about it tomorrow at the baker's stall. But still, he taps the old iron gate with his heel. Just once. Just enough. A sound. Small. Odd. Unfamiliar. A nearby guard hears it. Looks over. Comes closer. Sees him. Not threatening. Just a man by the church. The guard hesitates. Something wrong with the door? The guard asks. The assassin smiles faintly. No, just praying late. The guard grunts. Nods. Moves on. But that moment is all it takes. Because just beyond the alley, near the second inn, Lisette is moving. He doesn't see it. But he knows it. Like two threads tied in the middle, pulling in opposite directions, but still connected. Meanwhile, in a small upstairs room at that second inn, the merchant finally lets out a snore. He hasn't heard anything. He hasn't seen anything. But something in his dream stirs uneasily, as if his body knows what his mind does not. A candle guttering in the window gives a soft flicker of warning, but it's too late. Lisette is already in the hall. She moves without shoe and without sound. No robes or swords. Just soft cloth. A small pouch of powder. And the quiet skill of someone who's done this too many times. The lock is old. She doesn't even need tools. Just pressure. And patience. The door opens. A slow groan. Long and low. But the merchant doesn't wait. Not yet. He's heavy from drink. His feet stick out from the blanket. Lisette steps once, twice, 3 times. Then she waits. Every job has that moment. The long pause between being in the room and making the decision. She breathes once, and then, with a swift, almost motherly motion, she empties the powder across the pillow. Not poison. Not this time. It's sleep powder, made from poppy dust, dried lavender and crushed goose feather. A secret from the Far East. He'll sleep for hours. Deeply. He won't dream. He won't wake up to footsteps. Not until morning. Because this kill isn't about blood. It's about fear. Outside, the assassin walks a loop around the block. Still calm. Still harmless. People see him. That's the point. Let them remember the man by the church. Not whoever was in the inn. It's a trick. One taught to him long ago. If 2 killers are hired, only one has to finish the job. The other must be seen. Then if anyone comes asking questions, they'll go the wrong way. By the time he returns to the stable, the fog is thinning. The stars are visible now. Just a few. He lies down again on the hay. His body aches. His legs burn. But this time there's warmth in his chest. Not comfort, not pride, just knowing the job is over. The next morning, word spreads. The merchant, still alive, but shaken. He left town before dawn, packed his cart without help, took only what he could carry. People whisper that he saw a ghost. Others say someone cursed him. No one mentions assassins. And that's the best kind of ending. Later that day, Lisette finds him by the edge of the river. She tosses a coin into the water before sitting down. They say nothing for a while. Just let the breeze run through the grass. Finally she speaks. He'll never come back. He nods. That was the plan. You think that'll be enough? He shrugs. If it's not, someone else will follow. She looks at him. Would you do it again? He takes a breath. Not if you were in the room. She smiles. Only barely. And then for the first time in years, they sit in silence together. Not because they have to, but because it feels like rest. 2 days pass. He leaves town before sunrise. No goodbyes. No footprints. Just a shadow that once was. He travels east, toward a city he hasn't seen in 5 winters. Lisette stays behind. She has her own plans. Maybe another job. Maybe not. But they part without words. That's how it always is. Words make things real. Assassins don't need real. They need quiet. On the road he passes a farmer driving an empty cart. The man offers a nod. He nods back. No one looks twice at a traveler with sore feet. That's the goal. He sleeps in a ditch that night, using his cloak as a blanket again. The stars are clearer here. No smoke. No noise. Just owls. And wind. And the occasional whisper of something brushing through the grass. He doesn't flinch anymore. Not unless he has to. 2 weeks later, in a different town, a new note arrives. This one isn't wax sealed. It's folded into a piece of bread. Clever. He eats the bread, saves the note, reads it twice. The job is in the market square. A politician this time. Too many speeches, too many friends. He sighs. He doesn't want to go. But he will. Because this is the life, and the life is never done. The new town is larger. Not by much, but enough that the streets twist more. The buildings lean taller. And people don't always look you in the eye when you pass. That's good. It means he has room to disappear. The assassin arrives on a day when the sky is dull white. Neither cloudy nor clear. That strange in-between light that makes everyone's skin look faded and old. His boots are crusted with dried mud. His shoulders ache. The coin pouch he carries is almost empty. But he walks like he belongs. Not proudly. Not timidly. Just steadily. That's the secret. Walk like you're late for something boring. People will forget your face in seconds. He finds a place to sleep. On the edge of the tanner's quarter. It's not a bed. It's not even indoors. Just a space between a barrel of cured hides and the back wall of a leather The smell is strong, sharp and sour. Like wet fur and ash. But it hides other smells. That's important. And it means fewer people walk this way. That's even better. He folds his cloak under his head. Listens for rats. Hears none. That's lucky. And then he sleeps. For the first time in 3 days. Deeply, but not long. By morning the job has changed shape. The note had said politician. But that can mean anything. A tax collector. A magistrate. A clerk who speaks too loudly in front of the wrong ears. It takes him 3 hours to find the right one. A man in fine wool. Walking with guards. Speaking Latin too loudly in the square. People roll their eyes as he passes. Some nod. Others look away. That's the one. The target. But watching him won't be simple. He never walks alone. 3 guards. 1 in front, 2 behind. None of them smiling. That means something. It means someone else already tried. Assassins have instincts like dogs. They can smell fear. And this politician smells like someone who has felt a blade nearby. Or at least heard it whispered close to his ear. So now he's harder to read. The assassin doesn't follow. Not yet, he watches from a roof instead. Not a tall one, just above a bakery. The bread smell covers his scent, the chimney gives him warmth, and the rooftop gives him time to think. He sketches shapes into the soot with one finger. Not letters, not names, just patterns, paths, possibilities. The target walks with purpose, always surrounded, always alert. This won't be a quiet alley job. It will need to be clever. And quick. By evening he's learned something. The politician eats alone. Not truly alone, but alone enough. Every evening, he sits on a balcony above the square, drinks wine, eats bread and salted fish, watches the pigeons. His guards stay inside the doorway, close enough to rush in, but not close enough to see everything. That's a weakness. It's not a big one, but sometimes that's all you need. The next day he doesn't watch the politician. He watches the pigeons. They're stupid birds, but predictable. They land on the same ledge, at the same time, just before dusk. That's when the light is softest, when the guards blink more, when the square quiets. That's the time. But even then it's not enough. So he makes a tool. In the back of the leather shop. He finds scrap wood. In the market. He trades an old button for a bit of string. From a child he buys a slingshot stone. It's not a weapon. It's a distraction. He carves a small spoon-like scoop into one end of the wood, ties the string tight, tests the balance. It works. Not perfectly, but close enough. He hides it under his cloak, waits one more day, then two, then finally, the right moment comes. The square is quiet again. The politician takes his place on the balcony. The wine arrives. The bread is broken. The guards are inside. The sun hits the stone wall just right, and the assassin moves. He walks calmly across the square, not toward the balcony, not looking up, just walking. Then at the edge of the fountain, he stops, kneels as if to tie his boot, and from his cloak, the slingshot appears. He loads the stone, a small one, not sharp, aimed not at the man, but at the pigeons. He lets it fly. It hits the wall with a sharp crack. The birds explode into motion, feathers everywhere, wings flapping. A sudden chaos. The politician startles, leans forward. His goblet falls, wine spills across the railing, and that's when the assassin throws the second thing. Not a stone, but a folded scrap of leather, dipped in bitter root sap. It hits the goblet, not the man, and vanishes over the edge. To the guards it looks like a bird flew too close. To the politician it feels like nothing more than clumsiness. But the sap works, not deadly, just enough to make him sick. Later that night, he'll vomit, shake, pass out cold, and he'll never know why. The next morning, the town hears the news. The politician has fallen ill, suspicious, maybe, but no wounds, no sign of violence, and that's what matters, because the job was never kill, it was remove. And sometimes, a man made sick in front of his own guards does more damage to his reputation than any knife could. The assassin collects his payment. 2 days later, a baker hands him a coin, hidden inside a heel of bread. He doesn't speak, just nods. That's enough. He eats the bread slowly on a bench near the edge of town, then throws the coin into the canal. Why? Because this job was a warning, not a payday. And coins with marks on them can follow you longer than blood. At sunset, he leaves the town by the road to the south. No one notices. Not even the dogs. And that's the best kind of leaving there is. The road south doesn't stay dry for long. By the third day, his boots squish with each step. The path narrows into strips of moss-covered stone. A thick smell rolls in from every direction. A mix of peat, rotting reeds, and something vaguely sweet, like old berries crushed in the mud. He's entered the wetlands. They don't have a name. Not really. Some people call them the fingers. Others just avoid them entirely. But that's why someone would hide here. And wherever someone hides, someone else will always want them found. That's where he comes in. The message this time wasn't delivered in bread. It came wrapped around a fishbone. Simple, smelly, easy to burn afterward. The note read, "The man in the hut with the green roof. East Edge, quietly, That's it. No reason given. No name. Just the place. And the action. He's used to that. He stopped asking why after his third job. The only question now is how. He spends the first night in a hollow tree. It's not comfortable. The bark scratches his back every time he shifts. The roots dig into his shoulder. But it's dry. And that's rare out here. The rain comes just after dusk. Soft at first. Then heavy. It drums on the leaves like fingers on old wood. He listens to it, wrapped in his cloak, one hand on the pouch at his waist. He still has the bitter root powder, still has a short blade carved from bone, still has a bit of salted pork he found in his last town. Enough for now, but not for long. At dawn he walks deeper into the wetlands. The air hums with insects. His hood stays low, not for shadow, but for protection. Tiny biting flies circle his ears. He doesn't swat them. That would draw attention. Instead he smears crushed fern on his skin. An old trick, not perfect, but better than nothing. Every few steps, he hears something shift in the water. A frog. A fish. Something larger. The ground sucks at his boots, trying to hold him in place. But he keeps moving. He has to. It takes a full day to find the hut. It's almost invisible, buried in reeds, leaning like it's drunk. Its roof barely visible under a patch of bright moss. Green, just like the note said. Smoke curls from a pipe in the wall, a sign someone's inside. But here's the strange part. There are no footprints. None. Even in the soft mud, nothing fresh. That means the person inside hasn't left in days. Or they don't leave at all. That changes things. He doesn't approach yet. Instead he circles the hut from a distance. He counts 2 windows, both covered in thick cloth. No sounds from inside. He finds a tree root nearby that curves just right. Enough to rest against. Enough to watch from. And he waits. That night he eats half the pork. It's gone soft. He chews slowly anyway. A moth flutters past his ear, then another. They land on his sleeve. Stay there. Everything here feels slower. Even danger. The second day, he sees movement, not from the man in the hut, from the ground nearby. A trap, thin ropes strung between 2 stumps, hidden under leaves. He almost missed it, but now he knows the man inside is careful. That's danger. Careful people take longer to kill. Careful people are harder to surprise. He doesn't cut the rope, he leaves it. Better to know where it is than to wonder later. By nightfall he's decided. He won't go in. Not directly. Instead he'll draw the man out. How? Smoke. He builds a small bundle of dry reeds, packs them tight, wraps them in moss soaked in pig fat, then waits until dawn, when the first bird calls echo through the trees. He lights the bundle, just a spark, just enough, and tosses it under the corner of the hut, not into it, just under. The smoke rises slow and lazy. At first it's thin, then darker. And then, the door opens. A figure stumbles out. Coughing, hunched, barefoot, wearing a long shirt that drags in the mud. Not armed, not running, just coughing. The assassin watches carefully. No sudden movements, no guards, no traps. It's just a man, thin, pale, maybe sick. He leans against a post, breathing hard. The assassin walks forward, quietly, but not hidden, and when he's within speaking distance, the man looks up. His eyes widen. "You're here for me," he says. Not a question. The assassin doesn't answer. "I figured," the man says softly. "Took longer than I thought." Still the assassin says nothing. "I'm not going to run," the man says. There's no place to run to. He sits down in the mud, doesn't move again. This is the part no one ever talks about. Sometimes, they don't fight. Sometimes, they just know, and those are the hardest ones, because it feels like killing a shadow. But the job is the job. He kneels beside the man, looks him in the eye. No anger, no fear, just tiredness. Then, quickly, one pressure point behind the ear. No blood. No scream. The man slumps, and it's done. He drags the body into the reeds, covers it with moss, marks the spot with a piece of twine looped around a stick. Not because he plans to come back, but because it's good to remember where you've left things, even people. By the time he returns to the edge of the wetlands, it's raining again, harder this time. He pulls his cloak tighter, walks with a limp now, One of his knees gave out in the mud, but he doesn't. 3 days later, he arrives at a town shaped like a circle. That's rare. Circular towns mean walls, and walls mean gates, and gates mean names. That's not ideal, but maybe, just maybe, someone inside is already waiting for him, with a new message, and maybe this time, it won't suck quite as much. From above, the town looks like a coin pressed into soft earth. It's surrounded by a wall, round and pale, built from stones too smooth to be natural. The wall has no cracks, no ivy growing on it, no graffiti scratched into its face. That tells him something. This town is watched. It takes him 3 days to approach it, not because it's far, but because he needs to find the right way in. Gates mean questions. Questions mean names. He doesn't have one right now, not one that works here. So he circles the wall once, twice, then a third time. On the third day, at the hour before dusk, he finds it. Not a door, not a tunnel. A gap in the base of the wall, half covered by an old animal hutch. The boards are dry rotted, but still upright. They look like part of a fence. That's good. People overlook fences. He waits until the sun is behind the trees, then slips through. Not fast, not slow, just naturally. Inside, the ground is quiet. No shouting, no music. The town doesn't sound like most towns. It sounds tired. The streets are clean. That's another warning sign. In most towns, there's always trash, rotten fruit, cloth scraps, feathers. Here, just dust and stones. No rats, no chickens, no broken wheelbarrows left behind. Too clean. He walks like a tradesman, a little hunched, hands in sleeves. He keeps a slow pace, like his back hurts. That helps, makes him look older. The buildings are round too. Not perfect circles, but close. Wooden shingles, low windows, small door. There's something strange about the air. It smells faintly of vinegar and flowers. Not the wild kind. The kind that are grown on purpose. Someone is controlling this place. He finds an alley behind what looks like a bathhouse. The steam pipe is broken. It hisses every few minutes. That's good. Noise is a friend. He sits there. Not long. Just enough to listen. People speak differently here. Softer. Shorter sentences. Their accents lean inwards, not outwards. He counts 15 passers-by. Only 3 make eye contact. The others walk with their eyes down. That's not shyness, that's training. Someone has taught them not to stare. He sharpens a twig on the edge of a brick. Not to use. Just to keep his hands busy. And while he works, he waits for a sign. It comes that night. Not in a whisper, but in a bucket. While he pretends to sleep behind the bathhouse, someone drops a bucket beside him. They don't say a word, just set it down, and walk away. Inside the bucket, a candle stub, 2 dried plums, and a rolled up cloth. He eats the plums, slowly, carefully, then unrolls the cloth. Inside, a message written in coal dust. There are 11 who want him gone. You are number 3. He doesn't know who him is. But now he knows he's not the first one they've asked. And not the last. That's never good. The next day he finds a broom left near a stall, and uses it. No one asks. They just assume he's cleaning for someone else. In towns like this, invisible people are the ones who get the most done. He sweeps in wide circles. Watches who talks. Who listens. Who pretends not to. And finally he sees someone who stands out. Not by looks, but by stillness. A man in pale brown robes, standing in the middle of the square with a scroll in one hand. Not reading it, just holding it. That's power. Real power doesn't need to be loud. It just waits for people to come to it. People pass and nod. The man doesn't nod back. He just watches. Once he turns and looks directly at the assassin. Just for a second. Then away. No smile. No frown. Just observation. That's the target. Later that night, the bathhouse steam pipe hisses again. And another item appears. A stone. Smooth. Round. With a notch carved into one side. The signal. He's being watched. But not warned. Tested. So he waits again. Sleeps in short bursts. Eats little. Drinks from the well only when no one's nearby. And watches. The man in brown robes walks the same path every day. From the center square to a small tower with ivy around its base. No guards. No companions. Just him. But that's not confidence. That's a trap. He's daring someone to try. And someone already has. Probably more than once. So why hasn't it worked? Why are 11 people still trying? That's when he sees it. A shimmer in the alley near the tower. Not magic. Just glass. A mirror. Tucked inside a wooden frame. Built into the corner of a wall. At first it looks decorative. But it's not. It's aimed directly at the door of the tower. A watcher's tool. And suddenly he understands. The target doesn't use guards. He uses reflections. All around the square. Polished metal plates. Shiny glass scraps. Water-filled jars placed at angles. Not to decorate. To see. That's why the others failed. They tried to sneak up in the open. But he has an idea. Not a trick. A delay. That evening he finds a boy carrying a large satchel. Probably delivering something. The assassin follows. The boy enters the bathhouse. 10 minutes later. He comes out with an empty satchel. The assassin steps into his path. Doesn't block him. Just walks beside him. Quiet. Then he speaks. Want to make a coin? The boy looks up. Shrugs. Maybe. I'll give you one to trip and spill something near the tower door. The boy thinks. Will I get hit? No. But you'll have to cry a little. The boy shrugs again. That's easy. The next morning. It happens. The boy walks past the tower. Trips on a stone. And spills a bucket of berries. Purples and reds scatter across the stones. He wails. Loudly. People turn, including the man in robes. He walks over. Kneels. Speaks quietly. Helps pick up the berries. And while he does, the assassin moves. Not toward the tower, but toward one of the mirrors. He lifts a stone and smashes it. Quietly. Then the next. 3 in total. All gone. The angles are broken. Now the man has blind spots. Not big ones, but enough. That night, the bathhouse pipe bursts completely. Steam floods the alley. In that mist, a shape moves. Not fast, but precise. By the time the steam clears, the tower door is open. Inside, the man sits at his desk, still. His hand rests on a folded scroll. No blood. No broken glass. Just stillness. And a cup of water. Spilled on the floor. He's not dead. But he won't wake up soon. In his drink. A drop of sleeping draft. Enough to hold him down for a day. And beside the cup, a stone with a notch in it. The same as the one the assassin received. Message sent. Job complete. He leaves through the same gap in the wall. No coins this time. No names. Just the silence of success. And the steady pull of the next town beyond the hills. The road from the circle town leads north this time. It bends like a lazy river, following the slope of hills covered in dry grass and stubborn thistles. Wind presses in from the left. Not strong, but constant. It makes the long reeds sway like they're whispering. He walks with his head low, eyes scanning the ruts in the road. There are cart tracks, but not fresh ones. Hoof prints too, wide and flat, the kind made by heavy pack horses. No sign of military movement. That's good. Armies make the job harder. They bring noise, questions, extra guards at the gate, people who look too closely at strangers, with hollow eyes. And he's always been hollow. Not broken, just emptied over time. By footsteps taken, by nights spent watching shadows, by people he knew only long enough to forget. It takes him 4 days to reach the next town. It doesn't have a name written anywhere, but he finds it the same way he always does. By following the smell of smoke and the sound of hammers. This town makes iron. You can hear it in the rhythm of the streets, the way doors are shaped wide enough for cart, the way people shout over clanging anvils instead of around them. He walks in just after midday. The sun makes the metal roofs shimmer like hot coins. There are signs of life here, real life. Children chase dogs, women carry water in copper buckets, men roll barrels down uneven steps. But he doesn't look for people. He looks for signs. The first comes on a wall near the tannery, a strip of red cloth pinned with an iron nail. Not bright red, deep, like dried blood. It's tied into a knot with 3 loops. He stands near it for only a second, then walks away. That knot means there's a job. And the color, that means urgency. Not assassination for politics. This is something older, more personal. He finds the contact just after nightfall. A man with a broken nose and too many rings on his fingers. He doesn't give a name, but he gives a coin. Not to pay, to hold. If you leave with it, the man says, you take the task. And if I give it back, the assassin asks, then you won't leave. A smile, the kind that shows too much tooth. He takes the coin, not because of the threat, but because curiosity still lives somewhere in his bones. The job is unusual. It's not in the town, it's under it. There's an old quarry near the edge of the settlement, used for limestone once, now abandoned. People say it's haunted, which in his experience, usually means someone's hiding there. He follows the map the ringed man scratched into dirt. 3 left turns. A passage behind the second chimney. A stair cut from stone that crumbles at the edges. He enters the quarry at dusk. The light disappears fast. Inside it smells like old rope and mold. The air is heavy. The ceiling low. His footsteps sound wrong, like they're being swallowed by the dark instead of echoing. After 20 steps, he finds the blood. Not much. Just a few drops. Black in the fading light. Then more. A smear on a wall, a streak on a beam. No body. No tools. Just signs. That's what he was sent for. Not to kill, but to find someone already gone. To find out how. Further in, the quarry opens up. A wide chamber, half flooded. A wooden table lies split in half. Nearby, a boot. He kneels, touches the boot, still damp. Recently worn, but no prints nearby. The mud has been wiped. That means someone covered their tracks. Which means someone didn't want this death to be simple. In the far corner of the quarry, beneath a stack of broken crates, he finds the mark. A symbol carved into the stone, not fresh, but deep. A triangle with one open side. Inside it, a single dot. He's seen it before, years ago. It belonged to a silent order. Not monks, not nobles. Killers. Real ones. The kind that trained children to hold breath underwater. That taught silence by sewing shut the mouths of dolls. The kind that punished mistakes with absence. Not pain. Not scolding. Just disappearance. He walks out of the quarry slower than he entered. The job isn't finished, but he knows now. He's not the only one here. The next day, he watches the town from the roof of a storehouse. Not for the target. Not yet. For the sign. He's looking for someone who moves like him. Not fast. Not stealthy. Just too careful. The kind of person who glances at corners when they turn. Who counts steps between doors. Who never sits with their back to an open window. He finds her near the smithy. A woman in gray cloth. Hands too clean. Shoulders too still. She buys bread. Drops a coin. Picks it up too slowly. That's the tell. She's making herself seen. Which means she wants to be followed. Which means it's a message. He follows. Not directly. He loops. Doubles back. Disappears in and out of crowds. She leads him past the edge of the market. Down a narrow alley. Then stops. Doesn't turn. Just speaks. I thought they sent someone better. He steps forward. Just enough to be heard. Better ones don't come cheap. You're not here to kill me, are you? Not unless you ask. She finally turns. Her face is familiar. From the quarry. Not a person, but a photo once pinned to a wall. A wanted scroll. Back when names meant something. He's dead, she says, but not by me. The blood was his, but the hand was someone else's. Why run? She shrugs. Because when people find blood and no explanation, they kill the last person who saw it. He studies her. No fear, no lies in her voice, no shaking. But her hands are cold. That's enough. You want me to clean it up? She nods. The quarry has too many ghosts. Add one more. Make it quiet. That night he returns. Not for the body. Not for the killer. Just to erase the past. He sets fire to the crate. Enough to scorch the walls. Enough to fill the chamber with smoke. Then he smashes the mark. The triangle. The dot. Gone. No more symbol. No more message. The next morning, the quarry is just a burned hole again, and the man with rings is gone. So is the gray-robed woman. He leaves town with the coins still in his pocket. Not for pay, just to remember. This job wasn't about killing. It was about erasing. And that sometimes costs more than blood. The wind changes before the season does. He can feel it in the tree, the way the branches hold their leaves longer than they should, the way the birds fly lower, slower, staying close to hedgerows and ruined stone walls. It's not snowing yet, but it will be soon, and that changes everything. Winter isn't kind to people like him. Too few crowds, too many eyes, not enough warmth to disappear into. Still, he keeps moving. His boots are worn through at the heels. The right one squeaks when it hits frozen ground. He tries not to let it bother him, but it does. He passes a tree marked with a triple cut, 3 vertical slashes, narrow and close. He knows the meaning. It's not a warning. It's not a welcome. It's a question. Are you still alive? He presses his thumb into the center of the 3rd slash and moves on. That's the answer. The next village is smaller than the last. Just 8 houses, 1 chap, a barn half swallowed by snow. No one greets him, but no one watches, either. That's rare. Most places like this are cautious, suspicious of travelers. But here, people seem distracted. He follows the smell of ash to the back of a house, where an old man tends a weak fire. The man doesn't look up. You looking for work? The man asks. The assassin says nothing. Didn't think so. The man mumbles. No one hears hiring. He watches the fire until it fades, then leaves the old man in peace. That night, he sleeps in the bell tower. The rope smells of mildew and mouse droppings. His fingers ache from the cold. He doesn't sleep fully, just enough to dream in fragments. Shadows in hallways, a door closing softly, a woman whispering something he doesn't quite hear, then silence. In the morning he finds the problem, not by looking for it, just by walking near the well. There are flowers, tied with blue string, left on the stones, too fresh for winter, too clean. That means someone's hiding something. He crouches by the flowers, brushes aside the string. It's not a bow, it's a knot, one he's seen before, not from this town, not from this region, but from a job long ago, a knot used by mourners, in the Northeast, tied after a killing, by someone who didn't want the death forgotten. That means there's been a killing, but no one's talking. Later at the edge of the woods, he finds a small cross made of birchwood. No name, just a piece of string wrapped around it 3 times. That's not a burial, that's a warning, and it's meant for someone like him. He waits until dark, then walks back through the center of town, slow and steady. He doesn't ask questions, he doesn't knock on doors, he just waits to be noticed. And someone does. A girl, maybe 13, steps out of a shed behind the chapel. Her eyes are steady, not fright. You're the one who fixes things? She asks. He nods once. I can't pay you, she says. Still, he waits. But someone needs to go, and no one here can do it. She hands him a page. It's not paper, it's cloth. A drawing, made with soot and milk. A house, a hill, a tree bent in half from wind. He knows the place. He passed it on his way into the village. A house with no light, no tracks in the snow, but a curl of smoke rising from a chimney that never stopped. He approaches the house just before dawn. The wind has picked up, blows snow in little spirals around his boots. The door is closed but not locked. Inside, it's too warm, not from fire, but from something else. The air feels tight, like it hasn't moved in days. There are no footsteps, no voices, just the creak of wood that comes from a house that listens. He moves through it without touching anything. Each room is filled with small things, dolls made of straw, dried herbs tied in bundles, mirrors turned to face the walls. This isn't just a house. It's a place someone tried to make forgettable. That always means something needs remembering. In the back room, he finds a man, asleep, or pretending to be. His clothes are simple, but too clean. His hands don't match his face, too soft. And beside his bed, a knife. Not hidden, just placed there. An invitation. He picks it up, holds it for a while, then places it on the windowsill, and waits. Eventually, the man stirs. You're late, he says. The assassin says nothing. Did the girl send you? He nods once. Then do it. But the assassin doesn't move. You already know I'm not from here. The man says. They don't want me. They never did. Still, no answer. But I didn't kill anyone. That matters. Maybe, I just found the body. The assassin tilts his head. The child, by the river, the man says. She drowned. I pulled her out. But they saw me carrying her. The room is still. Only the wind speaks now. He leaves the knife on the windowsill. And the man in his bed. Some jobs are clear. Some are mud. This one is ice. You step wrong. You fall through. That night he returns to the bell tower. He lights a candle. Holds it just long enough to warm his fingers. Then lets it go out. The village never speaks of the house again. But the flowers disappear from the well. And no one asks him to stay. That's answer enough. He walks north again, past the tree, with the triple slash. This time, he doesn't touch it. Some questions don't need answering twice. The road turns pale as it winds toward the coast. Here, the trees thin out. The ground hardens. The air smells of salt long before the sea is in view. He walks slower now, not from fatigue, but from uncertainty. This time, there was no message, no scroll, no coin, no signal, only a phrase, whispered by an old monk in the last town. They're waiting for you. Where the land flattens. He doesn't ask who. There's no point. The monk had already gone blind in one eye, and half mad in the other. But his voice still held the tone of someone who knows things. That was enough. So he followed the road, because that's what he always does. It's dusk when the sea finally appears. Not wide and blue like the stories, but flat, gray, still. A line of cottages rests on the edge of a bluff, their roofs sloping like waves in a windless storm. He steps off the road and walks the last distance barefoot, not for silence, but because the ground here feels different. Soft, cold, clean. When he reaches the first house, no one comes out, but the door is open, just a crack, and inside a candle burns in a bowl of salt water. That's the old sign. A job with no name. He enters quietly. No one greets him. But someone has been here. On the table a small cloth sack, stitched shut with twine. Not heavy, but not empty. He doesn't open it. He knows the rule. When the job has no name, the details come after. He takes the sack and walks to the back of the house, where the sea meets a narrow stretch of shale. There, standing at the water's edge, is a woman with her arms crossed and her face to the wind. She doesn't look at him when he arrives. You took your time, she says. He doesn't answer. They said you were quiet, but not slow. Still, he says nothing. She finally turns. Her face is lined. Not old, just worn, like parchment that's been rolled and unrolled too many times. The sack, she says. He hands it to her. She unties it with one motion, pours the contents into her palm. Shells. 3, all the same size. One chipped. She closes her fist around them. You know what that means? He shakes his head. Good. Neither do I. She tosses the shells into the sea, but that's what he wanted. Who? My brother. The assassin waits. He died 3 days ago. Throat opened. In the barn. She looks at him now. I don't want you to find who did it. That surprises him, a little. I want you to make sure no one else ends up the same way. That's different. Most jobs are focused. One person. One moment. One clean end. But this is a ripple. There's a boy, she said. Sees things. Heard something. Won't talk to us. Maybe he'll talk to you. She doesn't wait for an answer. Just walks back toward the house. The wind pulls at her dress. But she doesn't flinch. He stays by the water for a moment longer. Watches the waves roll over the shells. Then follows. The boy is no older than 10. Sits cross-legged behind a smokehouse, playing with 2 flat stones. He looks up when the assassin appears, but doesn't run. That's a good sign. Are you here to ask or to tell? The boy says. The assassin crouches. Whichever works. The boy shrugs. They keep saying I'm lying. I'm not. Then don't talk to them. Talk to me. A pause. Then the boy reaches into his sleeve and pulls out a scrap of cloth. On it a symbol drawn in ash. A circle with 4 lines radiating from it. Like a sun but not. He had this on his sleeve. The boy whispers. The man who left the barn. You saw his face. The boy shakes his head. Just his boots. And the sound. He jingled. Like coins. But not metal. Not metal. No. Like glass. That changes thing. He knows the symbol. It's used by a small brotherhood of herbalists. From the southern coast. They wear small bells made of glass when traveling, supposed to protect them from spirits. Superstition. Mostly. But if one of them was here, that means the death wasn't just a murder. It might have been a message. He thanks the boy without words. Just gives him a pine cone from his pouch. A small one, carved with tiny circles. The boy smiles. And that's enough. The next day he finds the bell. Not on a body, but buried beneath the floorboards of the barn. One of the wooden slats creaks wrong. He lifts it with a flat stone. Inside a pouch. And in the pouch, a broken glass bell. A strip of dyed cloth. And 2 dried leaves folded into a square. He opens it carefully. The leaves are sharp with scent. Bitter root and black nut. Used for deep sleep. Sometimes too deep. He smells the cloth. Blood. So the victim wasn't stabbed for silence. He was drugged, then bled slowly. A ritual. Not a rage. He returns to the sea that night. Finds the woman standing by the rocks again. It wasn't personal. He said. She doesn't respond. It was meant to send a message. To who? To whoever found it. She looks down. Then they got what they wanted. Not yet. Why not? Because the message isn't finished. He spends the next day mapping the coastline. Not with memory. He walks the path between the bluff and the outer fields 4 times. Each time he notes where people pause, where they speak, where they avoid. Finally he finds it. A hut. Burned. Years ago. No one goes near it. He enters at dusk. Inside. Under the stone hearth he finds the second mark. The same sun shape, but this time carved into bone. And beside it, footprints. Fresh. He waits. Breathes slow. Eventually, the door creaks. A man enters. Tall. Wrapped in wool. No weapon. But he carries a pouch that clinks. Not metal. Glass. They don't speak. Just stare. Then a nod. Recognition. Agreement. The assassin steps forward. Grabs the pouch. Empties it. Glass bells. 10. Unbroken. The message ends here. He smashes the bells against the hearth. Each one a sharp note in the quiet. The man doesn't resist. He sits down. Crosses his legs. Waits. The assassin leaves. And closes the door behind him. In the morning. The hut is empty again. The bells are gone. The message forgotten. And the sea is quiet once more. The fields here stretch longer than they should. He's been walking since sunrise. And the grass hasn't changed. Pale, waist-high. Dotted with old fence posts that lean like tired men. Crows follow him now. They don't caw. Just flap slowly. Watching from the air like they're expecting something to fall behind him. He doesn't mind. Animals don't lie. And out here, in the wide empty, it feels like only the honest things survive. He finds the village late in the day. It's not marked on any map, just a scatter of roofs around a dried-up mill. There's no well, just a pump near the chapel that groans every third pull. The air smells like lye and burnt wood. There's a woman stirring ash in the square. A man fitting stones into a wall that doesn't need fixing. A dog missing one ear sleeps in the sun like nothing's ever happened. But it has. He can tell. He's not here for food. Not for warmth. Not even for shelter. He's here because the letter told him to be. The letter came folded inside an eggshell. Left on a windowsill in a different town. He had cracked it by accident. Inside a ribbon. White. Tied in a knot he hadn't seen in years. And one sentence, scrawled in cramped ink. This one remembers you. He folded it carefully and burned it after reading. But the words stayed. The job was already strange before he arrived. Now it's something else. He walks into the only tavern. It's barely a room. Just 5 stools and a barrel of sour cider. The man behind the counter looks up, then away. Back room, he says without being asked. That's never a good sign. But he goes anyway. The door creaks, and inside a fire. A stool. A figure sitting quietly. The figure turns. Slowly. And speaks his name. His real name. Not the one he's used in towns. Not the one he gave to Lisette or the girl behind the chapel. His real name. The one no one should know. He doesn't react, not on the surface. But something cold moves behind his ribs. You've grown older, the figure says. It's a man. Tall. Pale. One gray braid over his shoulder. A scar under one eye. So have you, the assassin says finally. But I never had to hide it. The man smiles. I didn't call you here to kill me. I assumed not. I called you because I owe you something. Now that's unusual. Jobs are bought, traded, offered with coin or silence or threat. Rarely with debt. I want you to finish what I couldn't. The man says. And what's that? Me. The assassin says nothing. I've tried. The man continues. 3 times. Failed each one. Why me? Because you'll understand. The assassin tilts his head. Understand what? That I don't want to die. But I want to be gone. The fire crackles. The room breathes. The assassin studies him. Not a target. Not exactly. A man who knew him once. Long ago. In a place with red stones and cold stars. He remembers now. They trained together. Briefly, before the man vanished in the night. Taking a map and 2 stolen names with him. He doesn't ask why he ran. That's not the question anymore. Why not just walk into the sea? The assassin asks. The man chuckles softly. Because I want someone to understand. Not just see the body, but know what it meant. That's harder than dying. Harder than killing. The assassin watches the fire. Tell me then. He says. And so the man tells him. Of a life spent in imitation. Of taking names. Wearing robes. Bowing at doors not because he was meant to. But because he knew how to look like he belonged. Of standing on rooftops. Waiting for the order to leap. And never leaping. Of running. When he couldn't do what they asked. And then running again when the silence came for him. They want me gone. The man says. But they won't do it themselves. So I want you to do it. But only after I tell you everything. The assassin listens. For hours until the fire dies. Until the candle flickers. Until the only sound is wind brushing the shutters. Then he stands. Pulls a cord from his sleeve. No blade. Just cloth. Soft. Clean. Do you want to close your eyes? The man nods. And he does. When it's done, the assassin places a coin under the man's tongue. Not for payment, for tradition. So the dead may speak across the river. He walks out before morning. No one stops him. The dog with one ear lifts its head. Then lays it back down. On the road again. He doesn't feel lighter. But he feels something else. Not peace. Not relief. Just completion. A thread tied off. A loop. Finally closed. He walks on. Toward the next town. Where no one knows his name. And no one remembers who he used to be. The rain returns before the road bends. Not loud. Not heavy. Just that thin, endless kind of drizzle that soaks a man without him noticing. It slicks the leaves. Fills the seams between stones. Creeps into boots. Cloaks. The cracks in wooden handles. He doesn't rush. The road is empty. And has been for days. No wagons. No pilgrims. Not even a lost merchant pushing broken wheels. Just crows again. This time blacker than the sky. He counts them. 7. That's supposed to mean a secret will be told. If you believe in that sort of thing. By the 4th morning. A structure appears on the horizon. Not a village. Just one building. Stone. Low and wide. A church. At least, it used to be. Now. The bell tower leans like a drunk. The roof is half moss. The windows are teethless. He stands at the gate for a while. No sign of anyone. No smoke. No animals, just stillness, and a strange warmth in the air that doesn't belong. He steps forward. The hinges creak before he touches them. That's not wind. Someone's inside. He doesn't draw a weapon. He's learned not to anymore. Assassins who walk with blades drawn don't live long. You don't survive by looking dangerous. You survive by looking forgettable. He pushes the door gently. It opens wider than it should, and the smell hits him. Not rot, not incense, just age, like parchment sealed too long in a box, and silence, not peaceful, just expectant, like something is waiting to be said. Inside, the light is dim. A few candles burn at the altar, mismatched, one shaped like a rabbit, another half melted into a bowl, and in front of them, a man kneels, back straight, hands resting on his thighs, not praying, just waiting. The assassin doesn't move. Not yet. The man speaks without turning. I was told you'd come. The assassin says nothing. Not soon, not late, just when you needed to. Still no answer. The man stands, slowly, turns. He wears priest robes, or what's left of them. The sleeves are frayed. The hem is burnt. One of the tassels is wrapped in wire. Did they give you my name? He asks. No. The assassin replies. Good. Names are heavy. He walks toward the pews, brushing ash off the bench before sitting. I need to confess. The priest says. I'm not the one for that. You are now. He listens, because sometimes that's the job. The killing is only a moment, but the reason for it can take hours, and this man has hours to give. Years ago, the priest begins. I sent 5 men to die. Why? Because they asked me to. People ask strange things. They weren't strangers. He pauses. They were thieves, but not cruel. They stole food, blankets, once, a sack of candles. Why did they come to you? Because I forgave them. The assassin doesn't speak. The priest continues. Then one day, they took something they shouldn't. A ledger, names, sums, debt, church record. Yes, they threatened to use it. No, they offered to burn it. Thought it would help. Set people free. The assassin waits. I told them not to. Told them it would cause panic. That the bishop would send someone. He would have. I know. That's why I told them to leave. Quietly. Head north. I gave them water, food, coin, and a letter. Another pause. But I also gave the letter to the bishop's men. The assassin closes his eyes for a moment. He understands now. They were ambushed. The priest says. Every one of them. You told yourself it was duty. Yes. And then, I told no one. Until now. The priest nods. So what do you want from me? Judgment. That's not my work. But it's what you do. The assassin considers. Then stands. Say the names. What? The names of the 5. The priest hesitates. Then begins. One by one, and with each name, the wind outside grows louder. The candles flicker. When the last name leaves his lips, he lowers his head. The assassin steps behind him, lays a hand on his shoulder. Judgment was theirs to give. You just carry it now. So I'm not to die. You're already dying. Just slower. The priest breathes out. Then why did you come? To tell you that. He leaves as the sky breaks. Rain soaks the stones, fills the cracks in the pews. He doesn't look back. The road calls again, and behind him, the church exhales for the first time in years. The map isn't a map really. It's a piece of cloth, stained in one corner with wax, folded unevenly, edges burned like someone tried to destroy it, and changed their mind. There are no names, no roads, no rivers or borders, just shapes, 10 circles, drawn in ash, and a line connecting them. Not straight, it loops and coils, like a vine wrapped around forgotten things. He found it tucked into a hollow behind a stone fence, tied with a thin ribbon of blue. No note, no explanation, but he knows what it is. A memory trail, the kind used by older assassins, the kind who didn't trust their minds to hold everything. Each circle is a place where something happened. A job, a mistake, a name learned too late, and the line, that's the path they took, or ran from. He studies it in the weak morning light. He recognizes none of it, but the line ends with a small mark, a cross made from two thorns. That's a calling, a quiet one. He sets out west, not because the map says so, but because the air feels different in that direction, like it knows more than he does. For 3 days, he passes nothing but sheep paths and cold fields. Once, a trader offers him salted cabbage and a rusty knife. He trades a carved pebble instead. They nod without speaking. That's the kind of world this is. No names, just shapes, just quiet trades. On the 4th day, he reaches the place from the map. He knows it because the sky changes. It becomes pale and wet, like stretched parchment left too long in the sun, and the trees bend all in one direction, not from wind, from habit, like they've always leaned that way, towards something unseen. He walks into a village of 5 homes and no fences. No dogs bark. No doors slam. No children run. But there are voices, soft ones, from the chapel. He steps inside. They stop. 4 men sit in the pews, 1 woman near the front. All wear gray. All turn when he enters. But none of them stand. The woman speaks. You followed the path. He nods once. Then you're here to complete it. He says nothing. You're the last. She adds. It has to end with you. They don't tell him what it means, but they hand him a book. Not bound, just pages held together with string and wax. Each one is a job. Not his, but someone's. He recognizes none of the names, but he recognizes the method. Clean, quiet, unsigned. Each page ends with the same mark. The 2-thorn cross. He spends the night in an empty barn. No horses, no hay, just dust and a hole in the roof that lets the moon look in. He reads the pages again, slowly. Some of the names are circled, some crossed out, and 3 are missing completely. Torn pages, ripped clean. Someone wanted those gone. He thinks about why, and wonders if one of them is him. In the morning, the villagers are gone, not vanished, just moved slightly. Their homes are open, food sits on shelves, beds unmade, but no one is there. Not even footprints, just absence. He leaves the book in the chapel. Not because he's finished with it, because it's finished with him. The road out of town feels heavier, like each step pulls against something soft. He walks until the ground rises, and the village disappears behind a hill, then sits beneath a tree shaped like a hook. The kind of tree that looks like it's about to ask a question. He breathes, not deeply, just enough, and in that breath, he remembers something from years ago, a job where he didn't finish the kill, a face he let disappear into smoke, a child who walked away with a pouch of coins and a secret in their teeth. Maybe one of them drew the map, maybe all of them did. He pulls a piece of charcoal from his pouch, draws a new circle on the cloth, not at the end of the line, beside it, and for the first time, he presses his finger to the center, his own mark. Not to be found, just to be remembered. He doesn't speak for 2 days, not out of choice, not out of silence, but because there's no one around to speak to. The land has opened wide again. Hills roll without interruption. Trees cluster in little corners like they're ashamed to be seen. There are no farms, no signs, just grass and scattered stones. Old walls rise out of the ground like half-buried memories, not high enough to stop anything, not fresh enough to matter, but still, they stand. That's something. He sleeps beneath a collapsed bridge, not under it. Inside it, a hollow where bricks fell in on themselves, making a kind of cave. It smells like moss and forgotten water, better than most places. He dreams of smoke that doesn't burn, and hands that leave no prints. On the 3rd day, he finds the stone. It sits alone in a field, leaning slightly to the left, not carved like a grave, not painted, just old and gray, with a crack that runs through its center. At the base, something is tied with string, a strip of parchment. He kneels, unwraps it carefully. The ink has smudged. Rain has come through here recently, but enough remains. 1 sentence. He says he wants to be forgotten. That's it. No name, no instruction, but that is the instruction. He's been called to erase someone, not kill, erase. It's not the first time. There are people who don't want to die, but want to disappear. They leave false trails, change their names, burn their homes and cut off old friends. But sometimes they want more. They want someone to undo every thread that ever tied them to the world. That's harder than a kill, because memories spread like vines, and vines take effort to pull. He finds the house on the 5th evening. It sits inside a ring of trees that lean inward, a forest that's been watching itself grow for too long. The door creaks open when he touches it. Inside, a table, a small bed, a pile of books that look like they haven't been touched in years, and a man, not old, not young, just faded, like a photo drawn on damp paper. The man doesn't rise, just nods. I was wondering when you'd arrive. The assassin steps in slowly. It's you, he asks. It was me, the man says. Not anymore. The man shakes his head. I'm tired of it. Of what? Of being something people remember. They sit. There's a bowl between them, still warm from lentils. The man slides it over. The assassin eats in silence. Afterward, they share dried plums and a cup of cold tea. Then they talk. Not about death, about what the man used to be. He was a writer once. Of names, forgeries, ledger, histories, rewritten for gold. Kings who were never crowned. Marriages that never happened. Inheritances lost on purpose. He made the world cleaner, or dirtier, depending on who paid. But no one ever asked me to write something true, he says. Not once. Just lies. Some beautiful, most not. But I did them well. And now I want them gone. So the job becomes clear. Not just destroy the house. Destroy the records. The aliases. The trails. The people who knew him. And the pages where his hand changed history. That night they go through the books, one by one. He reads. The man points. That one, he says. Burn it. That one. Keep it, but remove the second page. That, forget it even exists. The assassin obeys, until the fire grows too tall, and the house too hot. Then they move outside. The final pages are burned under the stars. When the flames die, the man turns to him. Tomorrow, I'll walk away. No one will know where. And you'll take what's left. The assassin nods. If I find someone who remembers you, he asks. Remind them they don't, the man says. By morning the man is gone. No footsteps. No trail. Just an empty house that smells of old paper and smoke. The assassin stays one more hour, then scatters the ashes into the wind, and moves on. 2 weeks later, in a small port town, a merchant stops him. You look like someone I used to know, the merchant says. He wrote things, changed stories. The assassin stares for a moment, then speaks. You must be thinking of someone else. The merchant blinks. Yes, I suppose I am. And with that, the man who wanted to be forgotten. The market town is louder than it should be. Not from crowds, not from carts, but from the sound that doesn't match its size. Too many bells, too many footsteps echoing off stone walls that shouldn't carry so far. He arrives just after midday, when the air still holds the weight of heat, but the shadows have already begun to stretch. There are garlands hanging between buildings, wheat woven with ribbon, painted symbols tacked to doors. Festival time. He doesn't smile, but he notes it. Festivals are dangerous. Too many people pretending to be happy. Too much wine. Too many reasons to forget who you are and say what you shouldn't. He keeps to the edge of the crowd, one hand resting just above his belt, where a cord is wrapped twice around his middle. Not for decoration, but to carry what needs to stay close. He watches. Not for the target, but for the invitation. It comes in the form of a child with one green eye and one brown. She offers him a folded cloth, blue linen, frayed at the corners. No words, just the cloth. He takes it, unfolds it carefully. Inside, a sprig of rosemary and a brass button sewn into the center. It's a message. He hasn't seen one like this in years. The meaning is simple. Your client is nearby. The target is known. But you are not allowed to kill. He follows the girl through winding alleys to the back of a bakery that smells of ash more than bread. She disappears through a curtain made of dangling shells. He waits, then follows. Inside a table, 2 chairs, a loaf of bread untouched in the center, and behind the table a man with one hand gloved in gray wool, the other wrapped in linen. He speaks first. "Thank you for coming." The assassin doesn't sit. "You're here to ask me not to do what I was never told to do," he said. The man smiles faintly. "You still think like someone who's paid by the task. Is there another kind?" The man leans forward. "I want you to be present. That's all. That costs more. I've brought enough." He gestures to the bread. Inside, not gold, not silver, not paper, but names. 10 slips of parchment, each one written in a different hand, all from people who know something, all tied, somehow, to a single man. The same man the assassin had already seen in the market that morning. The man with the wide hat and the crooked tooth. A merchant, or so he claimed, but too clean, too quiet, too unbothered by the noise around him. The assassin spends the rest of the day following. Not close, not distant, just enough to notice that the merchant's boots are too soft for travel, that he doesn't stop to haggle, that he never speaks to children, that he walks with someone else's rhythm, the kind you learn in a place with stone walls and narrow rooms, like a prison, or a keep. That night, the baker's assistant delivers a second message. A wax tablet, still warm. On it, just one line, scratched faintly into the surface. "We want him exposed, not dead." That's harder. Exposure is louder, slower, riskier, and it's more permanent. You can't unkill a man, but you can forget a body. An exposed man, he lingers in memory. The next morning, the merchant prepares to leave. He packs quickly. No farewells, no lingering. But the town isn't finished with him yet. At the festival square, the bells ring earlier than expected, and when the merchant passes under the garland arch, the assassin steps forward, not with a blade, with a slip of paper, held high, silent. One by one, others join him, each holding a matching slip, until 10 stand in the square. No accusations, no shouting, just presence. That's enough. The merchant freezes, then runs, but he's already too known, and by nightfall, he's gone. Not dead, just disappeared. The town doesn't ask questions, but no one buys his name again. The assassin is paid in bread again, still warm, inside a second sprig of rosemary, this one with a note. Sometimes silence is louder than knives. He leaves before dawn, and doesn't speak for the next 3 days. He never planned to stay in the mountain town, just pass through, rest, let his feet forget the last path and his bones forget the cold. But the snow began before he reached the path, a thick, muffled fall that felt more like silence than weather. So he stayed. The town was small, built into the slope, roofs made of flat stones stacked like books, walls thick with moss, chimneys low and wide to keep the wind from screaming down them. It felt like a place that had learned how to survive, and didn't need visitors. Still, they let him in. An old woman offered him a bowl of barley soup, said nothing else. He sat by her hearth until the fire died, then slept in the stable with 2 goats and a cat that stared at him like it had seen everything. The next morning, the note was waiting, not under his cloak, not in his pouch, but inside his boot. He'd taken them off for the night, left them near the wall, and still someone had reached inside without waking him. That meant they were good, maybe better than him. The note was short. Room above the mill, 3rd hour after sun. Bring nothing sharp. He folded it 3 times and burned it in the goat lamp's flame. Then waited. The room above the mill smelled like dried wheat and old ropes. A man stood near the window, thin, clean, younger than expected. He turned slowly, like he'd practiced the motion. "Thank you for coming," the man said. The assassin said nothing. "I know who you are." Still nothing. "And I need someone like you. Most people don't," the assassin finally said. "I'm not most people." "What do you want?" The man walked to the table, rolled out a map. It wasn't recent. He'd drawn it by hand, ink and blood. He pointed to a mark in the center. "This is where they meet." Who? The ones who ruined my father. And I want them gone. The assassin studied the mark. 3 names. No surnames. No dates. That's not a job, he said. That's a wish. Then turn it into a job. No. The man's face didn't change. But his voice did. Why? Because you don't want justice. The assassin said. You want permission. Same thing. No. It isn't. The man stepped back. You think you can choose who deserves to die? No. The assassin said. But I know when the person asking doesn't deserve the answer. He turned to leave. You'll regret this. The man said. The assassin paused at the stairs. Maybe. Then why walk away? Because I don't kill for stories. You've done worse. I've done quieter. Back at the stable, the cat was gone. So was the old woman, and the soup pot was cold. He waited until the snow stopped. Then walked back to the road. The next town asked no questions. But 3 weeks later, he heard a name in a tavern. The man from the mill. Found dead. Not from a blade. From winter. Alone. He said nothing, but at the edge of his sleep, a voice whispered, You don't regret walking away. You regret that he never did. He didn't know the town had seen him before. It didn't look familiar from a distance. Just another dip in the valley. A scatter of thatched roofs. Thin smoke rising from crooked chimneys. A road worn soft from carts and rain. But when he passed the gate, a split log fence tied together with rope, he felt it. A pause in the air, like the breath of the place had caught in its throat. No one stopped him. No one called him by name. But someone remembered. He could feel it in how the butcher looked twice. In how the woman carrying firewood suddenly turned down another alley. In the dog that didn't bark. Memory doesn't need words. It just changes how people move. He rented a room above the baker's shop. Paid with a carved pin he'd kept since the coast. The baker didn't ask where he was from, but he laid the key on the counter slowly. Then added a second. The back door. That was the sign. You might want to leave quickly. He ate a bowl of stew in the corner of the tavern, near the window where he could see both exits. The broth was too thin. The bread was stale. But he chewed slowly, as if it mattered. Across the room, a girl played a flute with 3 holes. Not just shapes of notes. And still, no one looked at him. That was worse than being watched. He'd rather hear whispers. The next morning, it was there. A mark on his door. Just a smear of ash in the shape of a broken circle. Not a threat. A memory. Someone here remembered the last time he'd come through. He didn't remember it. Not fully. But that wasn't surprising. There were years that blurred. Faces that didn't stay. Towns that shared the same mud. Same sky. Same mistakes. But they remembered him. That was danger. He went to the well in the square. Drew water slowly. Let the bucket rest. A boy approached. 12 maybe. Eyes too still. Did you come back to finish it? The boy asked. The assassin looked at him. Finish what? My uncle said you left something undone. Did he say what it was? The boy shook his head. Only that it never got quiet again. That night, he walked the village's outer edge. Looking. Listening. Not for danger. For memory. His own. And adventure. For memory. His own. And eventually, he found it. A house. Half fallen now, covered in vines that wrapped like guilt. He stepped inside. Floorboards soft. Ash on the walls. A chair turned away from the window. And in the corner, a pile of rags. He knelt. Touched the cloth. Old blood. His own. Someone else's. He didn't know. But he remembered now, a job that had gone wrong. Not because it failed. Because it worked too well. He'd removed the wrong man. Not by mistake. By bad information. And the right man had stayed. Quiet. Unseen. The town forgot his face. But remembered the shadow. That's what they feared now. Not him. What followed? He lit a candle in the ruins. Left it on the windowsill. Let it burn down to nothing. Then walked to the chapel. No priest there anymore. But he sat in the wooden pew. Said nothing. Just let the air listen. By morning, the mark was gone from his door. So was the boy, so was the flute. But no one looked away when he passed. And that was peace enough. He didn't expect to stay in the manor. Manors weren't places for people like him. Too clean, too vertical, built with rules. Which doors to use, which ones not to touch, when to lower your head, how long to hold your silence. He preferred roads, fences, low fires and shared cloaks. Sleep that came with cold, not comfort. But when the rider found him on the south trail, she didn't ask. "You're expected," she'd said. Then tossed him a coin. Smooth, heavy, no markings. It was the kind of coin not meant to be spent, just carried like a key or a wound. He didn't ask where they were going. She rode ahead. He followed. The manor sat on a slope just above a riverbed. It was older than it looked. The kind of old where wood forgets its shape, and stones keep secrets under moss. Vines clung to the arches. The windows were too narrow for light, too wide for war. Someone had built it to keep something in, not out. Inside it was colder than it should have been. Not winter cold, memory cold. The kind that settled into your fingertips and stayed there. No matter the fire. Servants passed him like smoke. Bare feet, pale sleeves. None met his eye. He was led to a room with a narrow bed, and a chair facing the window. On the table, bread, uncut, a candle half burned, a piece of folded parchment sealed with black wax. He opened it carefully. Sleep. Tomorrow we speak. No name, no mark. But the writing was careful. Too careful. Someone who wanted to be believed. Or someone who knew how belief could be shaped. He didn't sleep right away. Not in the bed. Not in the chair. He lay on the floor, back to the wall, watching the crack beneath the door. Old habits. They just rest in the corners of the room until needed again. He woke in darkness, but not because of a sound. Because someone was in the room. Not close. Not near the door. Just present. He didn't move. Didn't breathe deep. Just listened. There it was. The smallest exhale. Not heavy. Not rushed. Just enough to mean I'm here. He sat up slowly. No blade in his hand. He didn't need one. A whisper came through the dark. "I'm not here to harm you." A woman's voice. Soft. Not timid. Like someone who reads words out loud only after learning them by heart. He said nothing. "I watch those who come," she continued. "They don't know it. But I do." Still he waited. "You're the first to sleep on the floor," she said. "Comfort is a lie," he finally replied. "So is fear. Only when it ends." A pause. Then the creak of wood. She sat in the chair. Didn't face him. "They brought you to remove someone," she said. "That's what I do. What if they're wrong? Then they pay more." She didn't laugh. Didn't move. "It's me," she said. "What is?" "The target." He didn't answer, but he didn't stand either. "Why tell me?" he asked. "Because I'd rather not be erased in the quiet. Most don't get a choice. I'm not She told him everything. Not the short version. Not the "I made a mistake, they misunderstood" story. She told him the long version, of letters sent to the wrong man. Of alliances made in silence and broken with public smiles. Of a name she carried that was borrowed, stolen, and worn thin. Of how the manor wasn't hers. Not really. It belonged to a name, and that name belonged to a memory kept alive by coin. "They need me to vanish. Not die. Just disappear. So no one asks what I was doing here. And if I say no," he asked, "then I become something else. A warning, a symbol. And if I say yes," she looked at him, finally. Eyes darker than coal. Not cold, just done. "Then I vanish for real. The way they want." He stood. Not to kill, just to feel what the room did when he moved. And the room did nothing. No tension, no fear, just two people sitting in a box of stone and air and decisions. "I want to walk out on my own," she said. "Past the river. Past the boundary stone. That'll take 3 days. I know. They'll notice. That's your part. By morning." The bed was empty, and the bread was gone. But the chair was still warm. He found a cloak folded neatly. where she'd been. Not his. Not hers. Just left. He stayed in the room for one more night. Then at sunrise, he walked to the river, stood at the edge, and cut his own hand. Let 3 drops fall into the water. That was the message. The target is gone. The job is done. Payment is due. He didn't lie. She was gone. The job was done. Just not the way they'd expected. Back on the road, he didn't think about the coin, or the room, or the silence. He thought about something she'd said. Comfort is a lie. He'd believed that. Still did. But for a night he wasn't uncomfortable. And that, more than anything else, unsettled him. He met him by accident. There was no letter. No parchment. No wax seal or whispered name. No one had paid for this one. But there are some people you don't need to be paid to notice. Because when they walk into a room, every other voice lowers. And when they leave it, everyone else breathes out. He first saw him in a tavern near the coast, a fishing town with salt baked into its walls and gulls that never left. The man wore a wide red scarf, and a ring too large for his hand. His beard was short gray, and too neat. He didn't drink. He didn't eat. He just watched. That wasn't the unusual part. The unusual part was that no one ever made eye contact with him. The assassin watched him for an hour. Not out of suspicion. Out of curiosity. Even in his line of work. That was rare. Then the man stood. And everyone went quiet. Mid-bite. Mid-word. Even mid-laugh. He walked out the back door. The assassin followed. They didn't speak at first. Just walked side by side through the alley. Down the muddy lane. Toward the docks. There was no sound but boots on wet wood. Finally, the man stopped. Turned. And said, "Do you remember me?" That was the kind of question that didn't come from strangers. "I don't," the assassin answered. "I didn't think you would." He pulled something from his cloak. A strip of silk, torn at the edges. Pale blue, stained in one corner. "You left this on my doorstep. 10 years ago." The assassin didn't take it. "I don't leave warnings," he said. "You did for me. And you're still alive." The man smiled. But not kindly. "That's the problem." He told the story slowly. Not out of pain. Out of habit. He'd once been a merchant. Then a messenger. Then something else entirely. The kind of man who traded names for names. Gold for secrets. Trust for power. But eventually he crossed someone who didn't want anything in return. Just silence. That's when the note came. He hadn't seen the face. Just the silk. Folded. Unmoving. Cold. Even in the summer heat. He'd left that night. Changed his name. Grew the beard. Paid for the ring so people would remember his hands instead of his voice. But it hadn't worked. Not really. He still looked over his shoulder. Still heard footsteps louder than they should be. Still didn't sleep near windows. "You're not dead," the assassin said. "Not officially. You want to be?" "I want to be gone." The assassin said nothing. The man pulled a second strip of cloth from his sleeve, red this time. Not stained. Still warm. "If you agree," the man said. "This is the sign. 1 drop of blood. Yours, not mine." The assassin took it. No hesitation. That night he walked to the far edge of the docks, dug a hole beside the post where the gulls never sat. He buried a ring, not the one from the man's hand, but one that looked exactly like it. Then he walked to the church, spoke to a half-blind priest, and whispered a name no one had heard in a decade. The next morning, the town believed someone had drowned. A merchant. A quiet man. Hadn't seen him in a day. Left a debt unpaid. Must have gone into the sea. The assassin found the man in the woods, just beyond the ridge, sitting on a stone, holding nothing. "It's done," he said. "So that's it?" the man asked. "You're dead. And now you choose who you want to be. And if I can't, then stay dead." He left the man there. Didn't wait to see which way he walked. Some men want to disappear. Some need to. But few are brave enough to live after they've buried themselves. 2 months later, in a southern city, a trader with no name handed out bread to the poor, wore gloves, even in the heat, smiled like someone learning how again. The assassin passed him once, didn't speak, didn't nod, just let the man have his second death. And his first piece. Some people hunt names, not for gold, not for justice, just to have them, as if each name is a door, each memory a key. He met her under a windmill, the kind with old sails and black timbers, the kind you don't see spinning anymore. She was sitting on a stone, bare feet in the dust, turning something in her fingers. A square of slate, scratched and worn smooth at the edges. She looked up before he said anything. "You're late." He hadn't been invited, but she'd known he'd come. She called herself Mira, didn't say if it was real, didn't say where she was from, but she smiled like she didn't need to. "You know why you're here." He didn't answer. She chuckled softly. "Of course you don't. That's how it works." She handed him the slate. It wasn't blank, but the markings weren't names. Not yet. Just lines, each carved lightly, curving, touching, crossing. "These are paths," she said. "Lives. People. Yours?" he asked. She shook her head. "Everyone else's." "Why give it to me?" "Because you've been near most of them. And you left something behind." She told him what she did, not loudly, not with pride, just plainly. She found the forgot, the almost killed, the barely missed, the mistaken names left off parchments and wanted lists. And ledgers. She said they whispered to her, in dreams, in river sounds, in the silence between footsteps. She'd written down over 100. None famous, none rich, just lost. "People think you only kill the important," she said, "but sometimes you almost kill someone else." "And that's who I remember." He sat, not because he believed her, because something ached inside him, something familiar, not guilt, not quite, something just outside guilt, like a shadow that doesn't match your body anymore. He stared at the slate. "What do you want from me?" he asked. "Finish the list." "Why?" "Because you're the only one who would know." She handed him a small knife. Not for killing, for carving, and a pouch of soft stone slates. Each blank, each waiting. He spent the night under the windmill, carving, slowly, no names, just patterns. A curve for the girl at the gate, who saw him too early. A triangle for the man who turned left, instead of right. A spiral for the boy with no tongue, who'd pointed to the wrong door. He didn't cry, but something inside him loosened, and stayed that way. By dawn he had 5 slates. He left them in a circle on the stone where she'd sat. She wasn't there anymore, but her footprints were. And a single word scratched into the dust. Seen. 3 towns later he heard her name again. But it wasn't her. It was a child, collecting river rocks, and carving shapes with a piece of bone. "Mira taught me this," the child said. "Where is she now?" he asked. "She's where all the nearly forgotten go," the child said. On the other side of silence. That night, he didn't check the shadows, didn't tie a warning bell to the door. He just sat with his blade, and carved one more slate. A curve, a spiral, and a name he wasn't sure was his. Then he placed it beside the fire, and let it warm. He would never be remembered like kings or killers. But maybe somewhere, his name was still being held. The path grew thin, not narrow, thin. As if the land itself forgot it was supposed to hold feet. As if time stopped brushing the grass aside for travelers. It had been a long while since he'd walked a road that didn't lead somewhere. This one didn't lead. It just was. He didn't mind. His boots were old, the leather quiet now, broken into the shape of his life. He carried nothing but a small pouch of stones, 3 old slates, a cloak that no longer closed, and the silence of a man who had told his story too many times without using words. The trees changed the farther he walked. Not taller, not denser, just older. Some had bark the color of ash, cracked in deep webs. Some bent in half, with no break. Others leaned against one another like they were keeping a secret. He passed them without naming them. Some things don't want names. He reached a house with no door, just an opening. The frame was carved. Once. Symbols mostly gone, worn smooth by time and weather and hands. Inside there was no furniture, no roof, just the walls, and a hearth with nothing inside it. He sat against one wall, crossed his legs, rested his head back, and listened. No birds. No wind. No one. He exhaled like it was a gift. He thought about all the things he'd never say out loud. About the man whose death he faked twice. Once for coin. Once for mercy. About the girl who drew a map with her finger on the back of his hand and disappeared before he could remember where it ended. About the place with the chapel that only had one wall left, and how he lit a candle there just to see if anything would answer. About the boy who asked him what he'd do if killing wasn't a job anymore, and how he said I'd disappear but didn't know what he meant. And about the woman with the gray eyes, who never told him to stay, but looked at him like he already had. He pulled the final slate from his pouch. It was blank. He didn't carve it, just held it, felt the weight, felt how even silence takes up space. He walked to the river at the edge of the forgotten place. The water was so still it looked like glass too tired to reflect. He placed the slate into it, watched it sink, didn't speak, didn't wait, didn't mark the place, just turned, and walked back the way he came. There were no messages waiting, no coins, no papers, no old faces. But that was the point. You don't kill forever. You don't run forever. Eventually you stop being followed. Not because they forgive you, because they forget. He sat one last time under a tree that had no leaves, not dead, just out of season. He laid back, closed his eyes, and let sleep come. Not from exhaustion, not from escape, just from the simple quiet truth that for the first time in many winters, there was no one waiting to need him. If you are still awake, then I think you have to see the video from the 17th minute of the story, or play this side video as maybe it can help you sleep better. Goodbye.